Hey guys, so I'm gonna tell some more stories about Egypt and how it's actually really connecting to some things that are going on in my life right now. It's actually pretty amazing. It gives me chills. After I explain it, maybe it won't sound like much to you, and I'm just kind of connecting, making too much of a connection. But to me, it just feels really, really significant. My next video, I am going to post some C-peptide results though, so I'll try to post that pretty quick. Yesterday, I got my blood drawn yesterday, and I had to. It was January 22nd yesterday, so I had to. Plus, we're in the year of one, so it was 1221, which is a palindrome. It made it a little bit more significant for me, but had to do it. I did just get the results back earlier today. It's the 23rd today, so they're pretty quick with it. And it was pretty good, but I'll go into. I want to go into more detail on that, but I'll share that in the next video. Um, but so for this video, prior to going to Egypt, my very first vision. So we had a few meetings and group meditations with the group that I went with prior to going to it. My very first vision that I got was a fallen pillar. It was kind of. It wasn't the whole way down. It was just falling down, leaning up against some like stones or rocks. And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll come across a fallen pillar and I'll get some big like past life download of some significant event that happened in that area. And it's actually crazy. I was doing a little cleaning and I found this note underneath the couch here. And I wish I would have looked at this because I don't think I looked at this ever since writing it down. But I wrote down fallen pillar / column in Egypt. Notice what's around it. That's what I wrote. I wish I would have remembered that because I did technically come across one in Egypt. And I'll go into the details here. But I don't think I really had that in mind to look at what's around it. Because in my mind, like I said, I was expecting to come across an actual physical fallen pillar. But so where do I even start to go into? So the pillar that I'm referring to that is this, I 100% know that this is in reference to this vision and the message that I'm supposed to get is the Djed pillar. And I came across that really, I think it was one of the first temples that we saw. It was day 2 or 3 of my trip. And I first noticed it in I don't want to call it the basement, but it's an underground area in the Dendara temple, I believe, and I'll put up a picture where I didn't even know this was really a pillar of any kind. First time for me seeing this, but it stood out. It stood out to me and to a bunch of people, actually. I remember talking to a couple people, like wondering what that is with the 4 lines going through it. And in this specific image, sometimes some are kind of referred to it as a battery, and that thing is a light bulb. There's different views on that. But that was my first time looking at that. And then later in the day, we went to the Temple of Seti, the first, or sometimes referred to Temple at Abydos. And that's where I saw this. And the second I saw that, it was big. I knew there was a connection to the vision that I saw, but at the time, in my mind, I was still convinced that I would see an actual physical column and get this past life download. It never happened. So this was it. But my mind was kind of like slightly ignoring it, even though I knew deep down that this was very significant for me. Unfortunately, when I saw this, I wasn't, again, I wish I would have knew I wrote this note down to say, notice what's around it. Because I don't remember paying attention much to what was around it. I do know on the right side of this, the pillar is upright, so they do rebalance it. They make it more stable, which is part of this. So this is kind of a part 2 to my last video as far as inner balance and rebalancing yourself. But the reason this is coming into play over the past month here is because in my last video I mentioned the messages I was getting about rebalancing, and what I didn't say was, so one of the messages was the Ankh or Ankh, I don't know exactly how you pronounce that actually, fell off my shelf and broke, and clear as day that message came in as far as rebalancing, specifically the masculine and feminine, and I'll get into that as far as how that is referenced with the whole stabilizing of the Djed pillar. But at that moment, I think when that Ankh fell off and broke, I had just scheduled a chiropractic appointment. I've always been kind of against, I probably read something like 15, 20 years ago that said it wasn't good or something, and just never wanted to do any sort of chiropractic adjustments. But I got a massage about a month ago, and the massage therapist at the end said I might have scoliosis. Like just threw that out there, and I was like, oh shit. So I scheduled an appointment. I hadn't gone yet when that Ankh fell down and broke, but I had it scheduled just to get an x-ray to see if I do have scoliosis. Luckily I don't, but my spine there is a little bit of a curve in my spine, so I've signed up for adjustments. I've been getting adjustments for the past month now, and I unfortunately do have that military neck thing where my neck's a little too straight, so we're working on that as well. But when I was in for that appointment, so there was curvature there. My right side has been higher than my left. When I bent over to touch my toes, like my right just kind of moves up more, I guess is what he said. And when stepping on scales, 2 scales, I never did that before, where you have your right foot on one scale and your left on another scale. My left side was 5 pounds heavier, which makes sense because I've had left knee issues. I've showed that in the previous video. Osgood-Schlatter's disease is what it's called, self-diagnosed. But I have that bone or that protrusion sticking out at the top of my shin right below my knee. I've had it now for 4 years. And the message that I got like 4 years ago on my knee was that my diabetes will be healed when my knee is healed. Makes no sense that message came through, but that's what came through, and that's stuck in my mind ever since. And I know a huge part of that is tapping into the feminine side. Left side of the body represents the feminine energy. Tapping into creativity, which I'm finally kind of getting freer with. I'm starting to paint using watercolors. I'll maybe share some paintings that I've done. I'm actually finally getting back into that, which is helping. But that also from a physical standpoint makes complete sense. If I have 5 pounds more weight on my left side, then there's obviously more strain on that side. So maybe this will line up with getting that fixed. Because my right side is my dominant side. My right side is definitely, if you were to cut me in half and weigh both sides, my right side is certainly going to be heavier from a weight perspective, just because the muscles are stronger on that side for me. But I'm just leaning to the left, or my spine is the curvature in my spine is leaning to the left. So now going back to the Djed pillar, the other name for that is the spine of Osiris. So it's the straightening of that spine. So it's unbelievable how that is all kind of coming into alignment. No pun intended there, just with what's going on in my life and what I'm seeing here. So, and it's also a connection to, the balancing of masculine and feminine energies too, because I believe Hathor, which I brought up, did I bring her? I'm sure I did in my last video, because she was another energy that I connected strongly with in Egypt. She's sometimes referred to as the female Djed pillar. So there's that, and I've got notes here. Let me take a look. Yeah, okay. So Hathor is often linked to trees and the tree of life. So that feminine energy, and the fallen Djed column depicts something has been broken in relation to the tree and requires correction to reconnect with the tree. So, and that's kind of what my process has been. Definitely over the past few years, is reconnecting with the feminine energy and balancing out the masculine and feminine there. So it just ties in so perfectly with what I've been going through. And then also back to just some physical things as far as the chiropractic stuff. So yeah, I have the military neck, and there's trauma. He pointed out some areas of trauma. Now, my neck, my head went through the windshield when I was 17, so that there could have been trauma there. But it went through the windshield, like there was a little punch out like bulb in the windshield. I didn't really get too injured. At least I was young, I was healthy. It didn't really have any lasting impact on me at the time. I didn't get checked out really. It was kind of quick in and out of the hospital. I felt fine, but there definitely could have been. But what I think is more related to that trauma, and it's also funny because it's very related to a type 1 diabetic injury that I got, or a low blood sugar resulting injury that I got too, where I mentioned this. I have a little scar here on my chin, and I mentioned it in my dog video where my dog died. I mentioned the story where I think I mentioned it in that one, but there was an instance where I had a really low blood sugar and I was holding on to a railing. This was in college, and I smacked my chin on the railing because I was convulsing, and I let it heal on its own. I just kind of like taped it up, but there was a bunch of scar tissue there that I had to get cut out. It was kind of painful. So they cut it out and they stitched it up there, but the stitches, I already had a scar there from when I was younger. So it's just interesting that I got the same injury at the same spot due to diabetes, a low blood sugar, and they stitched it up at the exact same spot. But what happened to me as a kid was, I don't know if I have a memory of it or if I just remember people telling the story. What I do know I have a memory of is being scared to death of being in the hospital with the tissue over my face, with the hole where they were doing the stitches. That scared the crap out of me because I couldn't see anything. I didn't know when the pain was coming or if there was pain. I remember that specifically. But as far as the injury that I got here as a kid, I was riding a three-wheeler, and it was like a drainage thing, one of those big drainage pipes that you see on a hill, and then there's like a drop-off like with stones underneath it or something. But that was on our property, and I thought I could just ramp off it and land. I don't know what I was thinking. I just completely collapsed over it. I didn't get any air whatsoever. But I smacked my chin on a rock, and I'm assuming that likely would have been the trauma in my neck that he pointed out. He says that really you could just jump out of a tree and land poorly and cause that type of trauma. But I would have to assume that was it. So, but things like that, or who knows? I think that it's probably impossible to avoid any sort of physical trauma just as a kid, as far as being active and doing things like that. But that's my best guess as far as what the reason for that specific trauma. Now, I don't think that's necessarily the main. I think it's a cause for the military neck thing, but obviously we're all looking at our phones. I'm on a computer screen all day. That's probably the main culprit for why that is. So hopefully we can get that fixed out. But anyways, the whole chiropractic care and realigning the spine improves your immune system. And with type 1 diabetes being a autoimmune disease, of course that can't hurt to do that. So the fact that it's connected with the Egypt messages that I'm getting and just the balance of energy in general, I think this is great. I feel wonderful. I know there's a whole crystal thing in the ears. Every time that I go get an adjustment, my right ear just feels open. I feel like there's like this realignment of the crystals in there. I'm just getting a very good overall balanced feeling from this chiropractic adjustment. So we'll see what turns out there. What else did I want to say? I think that's pretty much it. There's so much. I still need to do a lot more research. If you do research on the Djed pillar, there's so much that comes up. Djed, there's Djed. There's like people referred to as Djed. I think the whole Jedi from Star Wars is pretty positive. It comes from the Djed pillar and the Djed groups, I guess, which I haven't looked too much into yet. I did look up the handle of a lightsaber is very similar to the what the Djed pillar looks like. It's not exact. There's definitely more lines, but it has a similar appearance. So that's kind of funny. But there's a lot of ties between how they created Star Wars and the Egypt stuff. So that's pretty interesting. I guess the last thing. All of this is coming up when I'm still connected with the group that I went to Egypt with, and we're doing a weekly meditation I recommend this book. It's called the Temples of Light. For anybody who's been to Egypt, it's great just to revisit, but if you're not able to go to Egypt and you want to connect to that energy, this book takes you through Egypt, through 13... Let me correct myself here. So it was actually 14. I had to look that up. I always forget. But it was 14 pieces, but the phallus wasn't found, so it was 13. But the book takes you through 13 temples to line up with that. And it really does a good job of explaining the energy of each temple. And there's a few meditations for each temple that you visit through the book, and it comes with a CD. It doesn't have all the meditations, but there's somewhere online that you can get. You can download all of them if you want to be able to listen to them and do them on your own. But we're doing that, and it's great because as I was getting all the symbology about a month ago, we do a meditation specifically to pay attention to all the symbology that's coming into your life. And right now, we're actually going into the temples I was referring to. We did Dindara a couple weeks ago, I think, and we're in the Temple of Seti now. We're meeting today. We're specifically doing the rising of the Djed pillar. So it's all lining up perfectly. It's amazing. But I do absolutely recommend this book. We're only 70 pages into it now, but so far it really connects you to the energy in Egypt. If you want to do that but you're not able to get there, please do that. It's wonderful. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. I always have something that I forget, but I think that's good enough. I will be posting the C-peptide results pretty quickly, so stay tuned for that. All right, thanks. See you guys.